All right, I'm taking people inside. People are start coming in,
Sure.
and so you can right away start in a 2 minutes.
Hello, very good evening.
Good evening.
Evening, Omkar.
Sunil san, konbanwa.
Namaskar.
I'm sorry, I'm attending from Dadar station, so I'm outside. Yeah,
That's
I hope
absolutely
Sunil, you are
fine.
fine in Japan. Everything is good at your end.
So good evening, everyone. I think we are exactly at 4 p.m. So let's get started. So today we have a very interesting topic with us to talk about. But before getting into that, a couple of quick housekeeping rules for everyone. While you are not speaking, and when speakers are speaking, please keep your microphone on mute. That's number one. If you have to ask any question, please wait till the end, because otherwise it sometimes disrupts people's thoughts. So you will be given ample time to ask questions. And third, prefer asking one question at a time and come back at a later stage if you have other questions, so that everybody gets a fair amount of opportunities. So just to quickly give you a background on the topic, you have, I mean, already it's given in the description that a lot of the companies are there, and IT market, IT services market, if you see, it's huge in terms of dollar volume in Japan, and we have probably catered only a few percent of that. So in our group, we have President Mr. Siddharth Deshmukh and our advisor, Mr. Sunil Kulkarni. Both of them has established their IT services firm in Japan. And these are small, mid-sized companies, and competing very well against the larger groups, Infosys, TCS, all the biggest. So today we will try to learn from them, how they have been able to make a successful run in Japanese market. What are the requirements of the Japanese markets, and what we should aim in future from Japan, both from service perspective, entrepreneurship perspective, and also people who are looking for jobs in IT services industry in Japan. Before getting into our today's actual discussion, a couple of quick sentences about Indo Japan Business Council. As you all might be knowing, we are a bilateral trade organization. Our main motto is to promote people-to-people exchange, trade, business activities, cultural connections, linguistic activities between both the countries, India and Japan. We started this organization in 2011. And since then, we have executed a number of programs. Our flagship event started in the year 2018, and it's known as Konnichiwa Pune. We are in 2020, we had to skip because of pandemic, but we are we will be conducting Konnichiwa Pune again in 2021, November 19, 2021 this year. We are one of the largest bilingual directory of experts. So any Indian language as well as Japanese language, if somebody is knowing, we are compiling a professional directory of them. That's one of our biggest database that we are working on this year. And becoming a member, you will be able to take benefit of this directory. So with this very short background, let me quickly introduce you to our today's speakers and then hand it to them. First, I'll be speaking about our very own Mr. Siddharth. So Siddharth started his journey from Japan in 2000, in the year 2000. And since then, he is continuously visiting there. And there, between 2000 to 2005, he started his company, Shimbi Labs. He is working with a lot of Japanese top IT companies, service sectors, as well as manufacturers. So Shimbi Labs was born with the idea of developing simple, powerful, yet affordable software for freelancers and small business globally to help them grow. Siddharth is also co-founded this Indo Japan Business Council platform in 2010, and he is actively and passionately working with a lot of Indo Japan related activities. He is a speaker with a lot of forums, including startup forums and other corporate groups. So he also teaches with some various universities, including Symbis. Sorry. Okay. Now let me quickly introduce our other guest, Mr. Sunil Kulkarni. So Sunil is an advisor to Indo Japan Business Council. He is with us for quite some time now, and just give me a minute. Let me drink a quick sip of water. Just give me a minute. Sorry. I'm sorry, I have to conduct this from a car, so there are some disturbances. Okay. Now coming back to Sunil. So Sunil is the CEO of Fidel group of companies and is working in Japan since 1997. So you can see the vast experience that Sunil brings onto the board. He and his team works closely with SMEs, various SMEs, as well as top tier companies in Japan in the area of technology, localization, and consulting services. He is active and passionate about upskilling, new employment, business opportunities in the technology space for SMEs between India and Japan, and often shares his views across various forums. As I already said, Sunil is also an advisor to Indo Japan Business Council, and during this discussion, you will be able to see he has already talked multiple times in our members forums. But today also, when Sunil will speak, you will be able to ask him a lot of questions regarding your piece related to building IT companies in Japan. So with this quick introduction, let me hand over the discussion to Sunil to start, and then we will follow on with a panel discussion, including Sunil, Siddharth, and all of us. Thank you. So Sunil, please.
Sunil, I think you are on mute.
Yeah, so thanks for inviting me today. Let me share my screen. I've created a small presentation for today. Is my screen visible for all? Hello? Yeah, I'm assuming my screen is visible.
Yes.
So thanks a lot for inviting me to present today or be with you all. Thanks for your time. It's 4 o'clock on a Saturday afternoon in India. My name is Sunil Kulkarni. I represent Fidel technologies in Fidel Consulting Japan. We work between Japan and India primarily. Today, I have been given this topic about challenges and opportunities for IT firms or individuals to get a job in Japan. So I'll be covering most of the views are mine, as in there could be exceptions. There could be this. The topic itself is so vast that meaning there could be some things that you might already know. I might be giving some perspective of mine, but because of time constraints, I have tried to put it together in a short format. Today's theme, I'm assuming the participants are IT services firm, IT product firm, individuals or professionals, somebody as a parent trying to find a job for the son or daughter, or an individual who's trying to find a job. I'm assuming the time given to me is around 30 to 40 minutes, followed by Q&A session and panel discussion, as well as some QAs from individuals. Okay, so let me quickly jump. Before that, let me take a minute to introduce our firm and do some PR for our firm. I'll use this opportunity. So we are a Lang Tech consulting firm. So we basically deliver technology localization solutions in local languages. And we also have provide consulting services, as in consulting and staffing, with a focus on technology again. Our clients are typically system integrator firms, product firms, end user firms. It could be an SME, it could be a top tier firm. Please visit fidelconsulting.com, our site, where there are a lot of jobs. If you find something specific that suits you, feel free to apply. Feel free to write to our office manager or our HR manager, Rashi. There are a lot of jobs there on Fidel Tech site as well for India. With this, let me jump directly into today's topic. As you mostly see or read these kind of news in India, that Japan population continues to decline. And this everybody knows, it's an aging population. There are demographic problems. And when we say decline, the assumption is the birth rate is less and people dying are more. So this is the latest August 2021 report or news, which says that continuously Japan has been declining for 12th year. That said, from our perspective, from jobs perspective, or from entrepreneurs perspective, services firm perspective, Japan still is a number 3 economy. Though we say 3, actually for me, I think in Asia, it could be the most matured or number 1 economy in that sense. Though China is growing faster from a maturity, market maturity and advancement perspective, I still think Japan is number 1. Major industries here are manufacturing, automotive, equipment, machinery, gaming, electronics, and services industries could be insurance. These are big, gigantic industries. But one thing we need to know is software development is not a major industry. Unlike the US or the Silicon Valley perspective, here companies use software or want software to assist them to support these industries. That's a big perspective, different. And hence, we will not see a lot of Oracles or SAPs or Microsofts coming out from Japan, because they don't see that as it's a tool, or a technology is a tool to achieve the manufacturing, or to achieve electronics, to achieve gaming, and so on. So that's a big perspective. So if somebody wants to do some core thing in software, etc., I think US might be a better market for that person, and so on. But Japan, still the software services market and the software product market is huge, because all these industries are majorly using technology. Now, there is often in India, we see a lot of news saying that Japan has shortage. Yes, of course, shortage. But I think we need to reframe the statement. Japan has no people. That's not the case. Japan has people. Japan also has unemployment. So Japan needs 100,000, 200,000, 500,000 people. Yes, but they are not just people. Japan needs specific skilled technology people. Japan needs these technocrats or these people to produce cars or to produce machinery, to automate, to support their telecom or something. Japan works in a specific way, and hence Japan needs that person to work, to come here or to work in a certain way. It could be to meet the schedule. It could be follow the customer is God philosophy. It could be working in Japanese language, whatever. But one cannot say that I am available and I can do anything, but I will work my way. So if we combine all these things, we'll see that Japan needs specific technology skilled people who are willing to work in a specific way and help them churn out goods and services. Now, when you say this kind of 100,000 people, do they need only 50,000 people? From an individual perspective, you are finding a job for yourself. You need not worry about whether they need 100,000 people or so. But this is the paradigm. They need people, again, from a labor perspective also, as in truck drivers. There was a shortage of car drivers or truck drivers during Olympics. They need warehouse people for warehouse and so on. But we, as in the skilled people, from IT services people, we need to reframe this statement as in Japan needs specific skilled people, and that too to work in a Japan-centric process way. Now today, when we see again people in this industry or in IT, working already in IT know how this industry is structured. But typically, if you see who hires or who uses who in IT or technology is hiring, typically we see system integrator firms are the biggest hire. Because they work with big companies, they implement a lot. There are, again, in Japan we call them the Japanese firms could be somebody like Entity Data, Hitachi Solutions, Fujitsu. Foreigner or Gaishike firms could be somebody like Accenture. Then there are product firms. These are product companies who are selling their products in Japan. They want people to implement. It could be Oracle, it could be Cisco, it could be SAP. And then there are end users or firms. These are again gigantic firms, somebody like Honda, Mizuho. They have core IT teams, but they will get major of their work done through all these big system integrator firms. And hence, instead of they directly hiring, they would ask the system integrator firms, they give the projects, and then system integrator firms would hire a lot. At the same time, who is actually buying the technology? When here we see a reverse way, that ultimately the Citibanks, the Ajinomotos, the Hondas, they need all these products, licenses, and they'll buy it directly or they'll buy it through the system integrator firms. System integrator firms also, of course, buy something, and then product firms. So if you are selling something, as in not services, but products or tools or something, and then you want to come to Japan and sell, then you would want to look at this kind of structure. Now, obviously, Japan has a lot of challenges as well, and there are opportunities as well. Meaning sometimes even despite in Japan, I'm here for last 20 years doing my own IT company. There are Infosys, HCLs, big companies. But all compared to their global business, Japan is still hardly less than 1%. So let's say all might be doing roughly around $100 million plus and minus. This is nothing compared to their global business, which exceeds 10 billion plus. So again, Japan has a lot of challenges. So one is typically Japanese manager has no major incentive to change. If you look at from our perspective, I want a job immediately. Why are you not hiring? Or when we sell services to them, hey, why are you not moving fast? So there is actually everything is working. Japan has everything kind of. Extremely excellent super infrastructure, safe, convenient. The mid-level managers, they are 50 plus people, they have achieved a certain standard of living. The youngsters, they are not looking at standard of living, they are looking at quality of living, and hence there's no major hunger this thing. And of course, many mid managers we see, they see cost cutting as a way of growth. Unlike in US or many other countries where innovation or implementing something new which requires people is a way of growth, but a lot of mid managers see cost cutting as a Japan works in a specific way, which again makes it very difficult for outside foreigner firms or individuals to work with them. It could be language, it could be processes, it could be long sales cycle, it could be the customer is God culture, because of which cost of delivery is very high. And then there are legacy software challenges. So countries like India, where we directly have 5G or 3G, Japan has a lot of industries still working on mainframe. They cannot discard. They had a lot of investments in that. So hence, somebody has to work around these old technologies. And sometimes, many times, they also want to change or add some new technology or new people, but they cannot let go their old vendors or old employees or how to retrain them. So somebody, if somebody approaches them that we can retrain your own people, then of course, that's a different perspective. But otherwise, there are these legacy software challenges. Then there are these basic how Japan should leverage Indian IT engineer. It's again not very much clear. Like there are Japan many articles, different perspectives, and then there is a misinformation also that attrition is high. Indian engineer doesn't stay too long in a one place, and meaning not that's the same case for even perhaps in China as well, but there's a basically that misinformation or these kind of things make it difficult for them to accept quickly an Indian engineer. Then so what could be this differentiation for an Indian engineer against when compared to Vietnam or China or Myanmar or Bangladesh? And then lastly, Japan is in too long deflation. So there is not much salary growth. Like unlike in India today, where salary growth is 30%, 20%, 25%, in Japan it could be 2%, 5%, 3%, because there's hardly any change in external factors. When we try to approach Japanese firms, or it could be as a company, as an individual, the way they think or they evaluate, and these are hardly few parameters, but I try to summarize something, that are you willing to invest in us or work with us? Which could mean get trained upfront in certain areas, or learn Japanese language, or localize your product in Japanese language, or visit us, but not just telephone calls, but actually are you visiting us in Sendai, for example, and so on. Are you willing to work with us as in Japanese, so train their users? Will you invest in our users? Will you understand our process and customize for something for us? Are you available for them? Many times people just want to sell something and then move out. But how would you be supporting them if you're supporting from remotely? How you're going to handle escalations? Would you be with us for next 3 to 5 years? If you're a company, are you strong enough to support yourself financially? If you're an individual, would you stay with us for next 3 to 5 years and work with us? So there are a lot of these things that make them think in a different way, whereas our approach many times is different. We're sure about our services, ourselves. We can do this, we can do that. But from their perspective, we align ourselves and present ourselves. Then at least the sales or the cycle becomes a bit easier, because then you have already thought of what they might be thinking and accordingly present yourselves. So many times what happens is, what I've seen is companies come with an IoT product or a data analytics product, and they want to sell that data analytic product to a company. But what happens is they are interested, but they don't have, somebody has to start with basically data collation there. The data is segregated or arranged or managed differently in different departments. So somebody has to actually start from there. So the tool implementation will take next 6 months later, but before that you have to first work with them together to understand that. So are companies ready to do that? Or are you ready to do that? Would be their first question. So they want that product, they like your technology and everything, but they want us to invest first with them or work with them. So they would look at certain factors or the certain things to work with us. That said, there are these challenges, but there are a lot of opportunities as well. And for opportunities, when we say opportunities, you need basically triggers something. And COVID and everything, while it has a negative connotation, business is suffering, but it is also giving some new opportunities. So one is, there is definitely a move towards digital transformation, digitization of documents, digitization, because people are working remotely now. There are a lot of customers trying to go for SaaS kind of implementation, for accounting packages, for HR management. There is shortage of skills, specific skill sets, because what is happening is pandemic is also creating psychological issues for many, and hence people have stopped working or people have changed jobs, and hence shortage of skill sets, specific skill sets. There is 5G rollout. So a lot of Rakuten Mobile is one of the biggest greenfield projects happening in Japan, already rolled out their services. But these are new services, and a lot of, you can see Indian engineers working there. So if you're from telecom, Japan is the place. SAP R3 is phasing out in next 3 to 4 years. So a lot of SAP related opportunities would be coming in next 3 to 4 years. Automobile companies are forced to consider EV. Of course, a lot of automobile companies were there already with a hybrid kind of technology, but nevertheless, they see a lot of challenge from the likes of Tesla and so on. So they have to adapt. Tourism, hotel, travel industry, restaurant industry has taken a hit, but again, they are poised for change. There are a lot of cloud kitchens coming up, and then hence delivery companies are growing, and so on. Pharma, of course, and there's a technical skill sets are, of course, shortage. From a software or technology for tech companies or job perspective also, a lot of jobs around data analytics, data mining, AI, cyber security, digital transformation. When we say digital transformation, we need not think very big, meaning sometimes it could be just something like, let's say earlier, there would be a form which 2 or 3 managers would sign physically or put a hanko or a stamp to approve some expense. So this form now, because everybody is working remote, has to move online now. So somebody is using Adobe Forms plus Adobe Sign and integrating it together to put a workflow. This could be a small digital project, for example. So digital transformation is happening. There are a lot of automation happening around warehouse management, supply chain, this thing. Here, and of course, here all IT services are needed, or engineers as in individuals. Some product companies from India have also forayed in last few years. Again, because we primarily know only the big services companies like Infosys and everything, but there are product companies like Grey Orange, which is into warehouse management robots, FarEye, which is into automation of supply chain, Unifor, again, they have a chatbot or AI platform. And again, Indicus, Shimbi kind of companies are also there in this market. But a lot of these companies are trying to adapt, localize for Japan market. And of course, so when you are looking for, say, opportunities for Japan market, one could be directly trying to come here, or one could be to work with such companies as well, because they will need implementers, they will need customizing, they will need some language skills as well. When we try to do a kind of a heat map, as in you look at all the jobs that are available on most job sites. It could be career Cross, it could be Job, it could be individual companies on LinkedIn. You'll see a lot of jobs pertaining to Japan market around these technologies. So if you are preparing from a venturing into IT services or individually trying to come to Japan as an IT technology person, these could be some areas to focus on. So one is, of course, AI, their computer vision, NLP, natural language processing, Python kind of skill sets are seen. SAP, of course, migration kind of requirements. Digital transformation, when we say digital transformation, UI related technologies, cloud API kind of technologies, backend. Automation is huge because because as we see population dwindling, many companies are going for automation, and then companies like UiPath, Automation Anywhere, WinActor, these kind of tools are there in the market. Then there are infrastructure related opportunities. Japan also is trying to move away from, there are companies, government agencies where they cannot use Huawei and they have to move to Cisco. So these kind of migrations are happening. Companies are moving to cloud. And so infrastructure and around opportunities also one can see. The opportunities are not, when we say IT or technology, it's not just the programmer or the developer or the tester. Yeah, because many times people think that I don't have an IT background, then is there an opportunity for me? Yes, there are opportunities. So if you look at the entire project life cycle or an implementation life cycle, there are different types of roles. So one could be a business analyst. So if you think that you have certain idea of certain domain, say automobile or insurance, and you know Japanese language, and you have some good communication skills or connecting with user kind of skills, then you could be positioning yourself as a business analyst. Then there are project management. So Japan heavily used to work on because it was process driven, they adapted that waterfall methodology quite earlier, and then that is prevalent mostly. But as we are going to product development, new technologies are coming where shorter implementation life cycles are there. Companies are trying to move to agile project management, which is very shortage. So if somebody has project management skills, for example, and has some agile background, agile or Scrum Master certification or something, then and of course Japanese language skill sets, then again you might want to position yourself into this. Then of course there are these digital marketing, PMO, translation. So there are big deals happening where, say, companies like, say, Infosys, for example, or TCS could bag a big deal, and then they want to the big deals happen in a way where next, let's say, maintenance for Citibank next 7 years would be managed by HCL, for example. So earlier vendor, and it was Fujitsu, they would do a handover to HCL in a window of 6 months. So somebody from HCL side, HCL would need people to take handover, and they would do that cost management by having some jobs in Japan and some work moved to offshore. And hence here a lot of translation, testing, say PMO kind of skill sets would be required. So if you are in this field, again, there could be a lot of opportunities out there. And again, sales, customer engagement, presentation, there is always this requirement. So when we say technology, it need not be you just are into IT. Of course, the more you are into core technology, it will affect the salaries and growth prospects. But nevertheless, there are these other opportunities as well. As I said, again, job, there are different, these kind of job types, job roles that you can apply for each. You need to check out how you are suitable or what suits you, or you might want to avoid functions like HR or accounting or legal, in the sense that these are very specific Japan rules, regulation, Japan process specific. And hence, if you are, let's say, software, if you're doing a software and it's in a HR space or accounting space, suddenly targeting Japan market might be very difficult, because then you have to understand how Japan accounting works and so on. So, but if you are into services and you are already doing accounting in India, for example, any language, then giving certification of Japanese Boki as Japanese accounting or Japanese might help you and get some opportunities there. When we say Japan, suddenly we all think about just Tokyo. And of course, Tokyo is the biggest hub and a lot of opportunities. But there are many jobs and opportunities in other prefectures as well. So some areas like Fukuoka, Okinawa, Nagoya, Sendai, Hokkaido, one can see a lot of startups happening out there, or many companies are moving there, say back office or customer engagement, like call centers or BPOs in these areas, in say Fukuoka, for example, or a support center from Okinawa, and so on. So one could be, while your friends or family might be in Tokyo and you want to come to Tokyo, but the first step could be to perhaps go and do a job in Shizuoka, for example, for 2 years, and then get your way into Tokyo, and so on. So because there are a lot of companies there who also want support, but nobody's approaching them, and so on. So again, these cities are areas where you might want to approach. And as I said, going to Japan or finding something in Japan, an opportunity in Japan, as an individual could be, if A, you get something directly here, B could be joining a Japanese company in India, or companies who are trying to go to India and then through them come to Japan for training and so on. Could be to look at any Indian company, could be HCL, could be Fidel, could be some Indian company who are coming to Japan, or look for Japanese companies in ASEAN again. So again, say entity might be wanting people in Malaysia, for example, because there also they need cloud. A lot of Singapore work is going to Malaysia because of cost arbitrage there. And hence somebody might want to go to Malaysia first and then from there come to Japan. So we see some engineers doing that as well. Again, we all, like including me, we are all looking for opportunities, but key is to position ourselves and how we help the customer or that company solve a problem, or because nobody wants to just hire people for the sake of hiring. In Japan, when they say Japan needs 200,000 people, the companies need these people, and the companies need these people to achieve certain objective. And then hence how we can try to understand their problem and then try to help them and position ourselves accordingly. So one is, many Japanese companies see problem for them because the Japan market is not expanding for them, and hence they have to go to foreign markets, but which means they have shortage of people who know English language. So somebody might want to approach them that, hey, I will help you with good English. I know Japanese language as well, but I am an expert in certain geography and I can help you expand there. Because they need people to demo their solution. They will need to sell and support that solution and so on. So one way could be to position yourself. One way could be, there are many Japanese foreign companies, like for example, SAP, when they came to Japan, they needed people who are bilingual and who will help them to implement something, show something, customize. And hence approaching these foreign companies who are trying to go to Japan market, or Indian companies who are trying to get Japan markets. There are companies who are trying to compete with global technologies. So there they want to, like manufacturing, they want to lower their costs. Hence they want to automate, use IoT. And then if you are already, let's say you are working in India today, you have implemented IoT in a manufacturing setup and you know language. Again, these are the skill sets that could be leveraged by these kind of manufacturers, because then you know exactly what they're talking about and so on. So one is understanding that problem and then trying to create or position yourselves to solve that problem. Instead of just saying that I want to apply, it could be that I want to apply and how this is the way I can help you, because I have read certain articles about you in the market and I can help you in certain way, and so on. So one could be to look at, then when we are approaching So many times we also receive a lot of resumes. We see a lot of companies approaching us with product information and so on. But many of them have not even checked our website or don't know what we do. So one few things that I think is important could be to check the website of the client or the company in advance. Understand how they are structured. So if you see their LinkedIn, meaning not in case of many Japanese companies, they are not at all on LinkedIn or social media, and it's difficult. But as far as possible, if we can try to find how they are structured, if the CIO is a decision maker, or if the project manager is going to hire, and so on. So accordingly, we can position ourselves, position our company profile or individual profile, and then make it interesting, so that when they read, they find it interesting, or they find that there's a match. It could be reaching out to SMEs, reaching out to startups. The way startups think and hire is different than a Rakuten hiring. So Rakuten is a big company. They will hire. They will have different sets of interviews, but a startup might have just one interview to hire, or startups might be more flexible to hire, and so on. So how you are positioning yourself for each of these segment companies could be again very important. During the interviews or meetings, also rehearsing those in advance could be again, because I see a lot of Chinese or Taiwan candidates really coming up with different ideas to impress upon. So when we were interviewing a candidate, it was like a .NET project, and the candidate had most of the resume in PHP, and in fact we had almost rejected, but our IT team mentioned that let's at least talk to him, because unlike in India, we get, let's say, 100 resumes for a job. In Japan, we might just get 30 resumes or 3 resumes. So we have no choice but to talk to all these 3 people. But when we talked to this guy, he actually came to meet, and he just opened up a laptop that I have created this Visual Basic, VB.NET project by myself, a small utility. I've installed a small SQL server here, and I've used these 4 areas. Please ask me anything around VB.NET. Now, the moment he showed that proactiveness, we were like taken aback. Like in a programming language, if you have certain areas that you have already covered, and you are saying that you ask me around this anything, then suddenly we have to seriously take that candidate. And then we hired. It went smoothly. And hence, when you are approaching somebody, a 2-dimensional just resume might be less effective if you actually create a demo for them, or like I have created a demo, I've created my own video, and or something. And this is the way I write document. So typical Japanese will ask, can you do Japanese documentation? Yeah, this is the mail that I write in Japanese, or this is the kind of design document that I create. And suddenly then you have created a different niche for yourself. So mentioning global names. So if you have worked for Ford or GE, as well as you have worked for, let's say, Kulkarni Enterprises in Pune. So giving example of Kulkarni Enterprises, they will not understand who is Kulkarni Enterprise, or what is a Satay Dairy or something like that. But if you have worked for GE, mentioning that GE might help, because then they know who is GE and so on, or they know what is TCS and so on. So mentioning global names, or giving a demo or walkthrough about your work, or a small code. Then communication also, many times people randomly take calls or on mobile, for example. If it's a serious discussion, you want to enter that particular client or customer, a PC or a stable internet connection or a PC might be. These are small things, but it could really, because what would tick off that client or that manager, we never know, and hence it's better to. These days we see a lot of companies doing background checks, social media checks. So if you are presenting any views about Japan or Japanese or anything, or Asia or your own country or companies on social media, there are companies seriously checking about that. So you might want to taper or just those views or whatever you have on and keep it limited on social media. Some small do's and don'ts. Of course, many people, if the customer shows interest or calls us, then we will write, then we will find something in Japanese language, would be a wrong strategy. If you are entering Japan and you are serious about Japan market or want to work here, day one itself, it might be better to start learning Japanese language or mastering certain technology or create your own resume in Japanese language and so on. And in don'ts, I wouldn't want anyone to pay someone, because these days I see or hear that individuals ask that, okay, I can find you a job or something in Japan and pay me 100,000, 1 lakh rupees or 5 lakh or whatever. So there might be, you might want to check. You might, there might be somebody who says that I can introduce you to Toshiba and Hitachi because I used to work there in Toshiba, Hitachi, but pay me say $5,000 for next 3 months or 6 months. Then, because here everybody works for somebody in Toshiba, like I might be working in a subsidiary of Toshiba or some department. A lot of people you can see all those, but then vetting what exactly you need, who all you might be getting introduced to, it saves time as well as resources, money. When you are applying or approaching jobs or this thing, sometimes there is a strategy of spray and pray, kind of like people just apply for all jobs and then they will pray that somebody will respond to that. And I think that might not, because then once you have applied to all that jobs, that company, the recruiters inside that company might see that, hey, this guy looks very desperate, or he might not, he's saying he can do coding, he can do this also project management, he can lift goods for you, and so they, the recruiters or HR team members will try to avoid such resumes. And of course, I can work on anything, or I can work on very low salary also initially, or it just to understand, Japanese person is not just looking at the cost. Cost is important, salaries or the structure is important, but they are necessarily looking to solve a problem. So if we can position ourselves, I think that would be great. And lastly, I think unlike the concept in India where we are trying to compete with each other, and as small SMEs also we compete with other companies there, but here Indian companies are not competing with each other. We are competing against Vietnam, Myanmar, Bangladesh, China, because they are like, if I take an IT services presentation and remove my name and put the name of a Chinese companies, it's exactly same presentation. We also say we are cost reduction, we'll give good quality. Nobody says I'll give you a bad quality. So everybody says same thing. So how to differentiate and so on. There are a lot of Indian firms, 70 to 80 Indian firms here, 8 to 10 pharma firms. Indian audit and legal firms are also doing business here in Japan. So many of them might require your services or products if you are selling, or if it's a services, or if as an individual you are looking for a job, then again there could be needs. As I said, picking up a certain area, you need not be good at all. If you're a project manager, just hone those skills and just look at that particular area. If you're a technology person, you might want to look at certain technology. So we see a lot of competition in, say, if you take vanilla technologies, Java, PHP, .NET, today, because it's so easy to just download some frameworks and learn yourself, that companies from Nepal or individuals from Nepal, Bangladesh, everybody is saying that I can work here and I know Java. So if you are in technology, you might want to upgrade yourself from just Java to, let's say, AWS or SAP or anything, or Adobe or Automation Anywhere, because then in the enterprise segment, it's not that easy to, because you need first a license to install and practice that. And then how many companies in Myanmar might have that license, or how many people in Myanmar might have that kind of access to those technology. And hence you are trying to upgrade yourself to the bigger scale. Then there is also less cost arbitrage now as compared to these countries. What's happening is in India today, if you're getting 15 lakh, 20 lakh kind of salaries, you have less incentive to come and work in Japan for, let's say, 5 million yen or 6 million yen. Because in 20 lakhs, you might be saving more there in India than you might be saving here in 6 million yen, for example. So, but in Nepal or in Myanmar, there might be not that kind of salaries yet. And hence, they are willing to work or come at a lower salary or anything. So that cost arbitrage or opportunity between Japan and India is slowly, still there's a lot opportunity, but, and of course, just sending one resume once and then quickly forgetting, or approaching one company once and then quickly forgetting them might not be a good strategy. If you really want to work with them, a kind of a long-term approach, you build a story with them, you continuously tell them, hey, I recently read about you, this, you might, since you are competing in this space, this is a new information for you. And so if you build a story, then those people will definitely remember you. Japanese people read mails, they are looking at your company profile and everything. It's just that there is no trigger for them to reach out back to you, or there is no trigger for them to ask you to join them, unless you position yourself or you create an opportunity. And hence, that these companies or people are looking for skills that are in shortage with them. If you just say, I know Japanese language, so Japanese language could be just considered as a tool to enter this market, but then here everybody knows Japanese language. So hence, what is the skill, a missing skill or competency that we are bringing to the table? So I think just wanted to convey these few points. Hope you got up, because the topic, as I mentioned, is so broad that there could be different perspectives, different people looking for different kind of information. I'm open to any questions or any perspectives that you might have, and then we can discuss. Yeah. So once again, thanks a lot for giving and sharing your time today. Really appreciate it. Thanks. Thanks, Siddharth. Thanks, Abhishek. Yeah.
So thank you very much, Sunil. I mean, it was really nice. I was completely engrossed with all what you were saying, and all your practical tips should be really useful for all the members. So before getting into further discussion, let me quickly check. So Siddharth,
Yeah.
Before we go further, would you like to make any one comment for now, and then let's start the panel and have our question answers.
So why now you must be knowing that why I was keen to bring Sunil on session.
Yes.
Although Sunil and me
completely
talk
agree.
a lot many things and many behind the scene things also on the IT industry in Japan, but how he summarized everything is something will differentiate IGBC and others. The point here I wanted to make is that what Sunil was speaking today, I hope some Japanese was speaking, because the problem is that he was speaking for Japanese to make Indian understand what Japanese need.
What you're looking for. Yes,
there is a problem here, is that Japanese don't speak. They need to do much more effort than Indian, because anyway, Indians are seekers in some sense. Still now, we still want to do the job in US or Japan or Australia or whatever, right? So the today's topic, we add one question that why they are not able to hire is primarily also this one reason, that if they are more making this kind of a sessions than going directly to India and on a hiring sphere and then failing miserably, will lead nowhere. So I think thanks to Sunil's effort, that he made it very clear to Indian people that what might be Japanese people are looking for. So I think that's where I wish to start this entire discussion from here onwards.
Okay, so I think all the participants might have a lot of questions. So let's probably start the panel and with the panel with me asking questions to you. I'll also ask other participants to keep asking. So
Here there are some questions in
my first question.
Yeah, please. There are some questions mentioned in the chat.
There are.
Yeah. I can take those. We can start with that as well. Or if you have any specific questions,
yes,
I can just answer that first. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think what we will do, we have a lot of questions. We will take them. But as far as the panel is concerned, I have only a few questions to both
please.
of you. So let's quickly take them and then we will come back to all these questions. My first curiosity is, when both of you started almost at the same time, 1997 for you and 2000, around 1000 plus for Siddharth. What changes you have seen when you went there? What was your views and how you adapted to those? What were the few myths at that point of time? And now when you see, say, almost 5, 10, almost 20 years, 15 years down the line, 15, 20, yeah, more than 20 years now, how do you see it's changing? So what are your views on this? So the thing is, when you started and till now, how Japanese companies have changed, and if there is any change at all in their strategy or not?
There are a lot of changes happening, and many times the more you stay longer here, we kind of don't see those, but a lot of changes are happening. While we say that Japan is slow, they understand the need to move. A lot of Japanese are trying their best. It's just that it's not easy to change overnight, or to bring those changes, given the lot of cultural, the relationship driven business, the way it works. But yes, a lot of changes are happening in business. We see around 2000 or 97 or 2000, many times if I would say Indojin this, sometimes I would get Indonesia jin this ka, kind of. So a lot of people, like India was also not that much known, but in last 20 years, a lot of IT firms, a lot of engineers have come and gone. They themselves have introduced India to their friends. Japanese companies have gone to India, tried to explore. And so I think a lot of Japanese people are trying with vegetarianism, veganism, and hence exploring India from that perspective. So a lot of changes are there. It's just that as an entrepreneur, it's never enough, and you still want more things to change quite fastly. Yes,
Mr. Pratik, if you mute yourself. Mr. Pratik. Yeah. Okay. So, Siddharth, your turn to answer.
Of course, added to Sunil, one prominent change, I should say, is acceptance that we need external help. And when we need help, it's time to learn. When I started in 2000, and probably Sunil more earlier than me, he must have also realized that there was a lot of not only learn Japanese, but be Japanese. Of course, now also learn Japanese is there, but be Japanese is slightly reducing. Slightly reducing, not really hugely, but that slight is a huge relief for newcomers, or not only for Indian but more in general foreigners. That's quite a different. And of course, now almost earlier it was only Tokyo. Now almost all over Japan you can see a lot of English signboards, and a lot of you can easily go around. So things are changing on that. But I always said language is not issue. Sunil can speak very fluent Japanese. I cannot. I mean, of course, when you are in survival mode, you survive, but not that. But I don't think that was the biggest hurdle even that time. The hurdle is that you be Japanese is a big hurdle. And when you say that, okay, we need it, you accepted it, then ultimately you start accepting that, okay, you don't be Japanese, let's try to work around, but we need a solution. That Sunil is trying to stress here, that we need solution, we need to do something. So that's the biggest change, I think. Abhishek, we lost you. Sound is not coming.
Oh, okay. So I actually put myself on mute. Sorry for that. So yeah, brings me to the next question is that, if I want to start a IT company in Japan, then whether it will be a good idea to start a complete development center, or I should first start with only sales arm, having a outsourced actual development center in India, or development centers or the engineers who will be developing the final solution should sit closer to the actual execution part, say in Japan. So what are your views? Do you really think that this entirely remote works? There should be only sales and all development can be from India, or it should be hybrid?
Again, it's a very broad question, this thing, but it could depend on what kind of software or kind of this is there are certain industries who first of all will not prefer to give anything outside their premises. It could be insurance, it could be banks, it could be because of confidentiality of data and everything. So in such case, they would want the developer or the engineer to work in their premises or on site. So in such case, then when you set up an office here or whatever, then your engineer also, they want that person to be on premise. Then there are areas or where the person can work from your own office, as in now if you have that person from near shore, for good grief, in Tokyo, Fukuoka, Okinawa, because of, let's say when you're setting up a software company here, you also have cost. If you have a budget, of course, you put it in Tokyo and so on. But if you don't have that budget, you want to set up in, say, Shizuoka, or in like, for example, Zoho, the founder, Sridhar Vembu, he believes in going local. Like he himself stays in a village near Chennai and so on. So they have set up their center in Shizuoka, for example. So to support local economy and so on. So you might have your own philosophy and then you can support from there. That again gives more confidence to any Japanese customer that your engineer is in Japan and can rush to their site if required. Second. And third is, of course, because of certain limitations, you cannot suddenly send 10 engineers from India to Japan and so on. Easiest way could be to start a small rep office or send some salesperson here, convince your client that we can give you remote. Because of pandemic, a lot of flexibility is there these days. Japanese customers also thinking more broadly. They are quite open in considering now remote services. And hence, using this, if somebody can assure them of that your data is protected, security is there, or continuity and internet connectivity is there, and we will assure about certain quality and this. I think remotely also there is much more acceptance for it. So it all depends on which area you are targeting, what kind of customers you are looking at, and then what kind of budget and timeline you have. Yeah.
Okay. Siddharth,
So exactly. So as Sunil mentioned, in our case, we found a different approach because as we always believed that we cannot go to the big companies, big enterprises. It's too much for us. So we always targeted the SMB, but the game with SMB is definitely they don't know how to outsource. They don't know how to work with outside people. They don't know anything about that. So it was out of question that we outsource the things from them directly. So we took a slightly different approach. We tied up with a small IT companies in Japan, and instead of working outsourced, we said let's build the extended teams. So and when we sign the contract with the customer, it's a tri-party contract. It's not like they are contracting with a local company and then local company is outsourcing to us. So because we since beginning, somehow I'm not very comfortable with this outsourcing thing, because I always believe that it is all the time like you are chasing with a price tag, and your value is only in a price tag, and that I'm not really ready to submit to that price tag. So somehow we said let's do another way, and we found it fortunate that we build a extended team with a local small IT companies, which then face the customer, which take care of everything, but which is again a very transparent arrangement, because that customer also know that actually my engineering jobs to certain extent is done in India, which probably if we do in Japan it might be a costly, or they might not have that kind of a skill set, or the deadlines are pressing, so you cannot have just with the 3 engineers in that local company do that entire project within a deadline. But yes, as Sunil mentioned, it's case to case. It depends upon with whom you're dealing, what kind of a company it is, and so on. But in both cases, one thing for sure, you need to be here. So we don't have an office here, but almost 6 months in a split or in a continuation I spend in Japan, because I have to be there, I have to meet them, I have to talk, and personally that is not going away. Even if jobs may be going remote, but definitely face-to-face meetings are not going away. Not even pandemic can so easily make that happen in Japan.
So in fact, that was my next question. What kind of changes do you see post-pandemic? Will there be lesser in-person meeting or not? But I think you already answered that is not going to go away.
No, it will reduce, but definitely not 100%. I mean, you don't want to have a meeting for every small thing, but maybe Sunil can add. He got a job in quarantine while in Japan.
No, yeah, I think here there is certain change, of course, because there are many companies who have mandated that they will not allow anyone to go to office, and everybody is working remotely, and hence so there are these big companies. But then like Siddharth mentioned, we work with a lot of SME companies also, who have not mastered the art of outsourcing, for example, or how to outsource, or how to create specifications. And then they still prefer a face-to-face meeting where that project manager will start drawing on a whiteboard or something, and then you are supposed to take notes, and then you go, and so on. So sometimes we visit that. But what I'm seeing is a lot of this acceptance to somebody working remote. Because now even Japanese are saying that, hey, I want to work remotely, or I have gone to Aomori or my hometown and I'm working from there now. So suddenly that acceptance is slowly coming up. A. B is companies are realizing that there are cost savings in it. So for example, earlier there was rent, then there was a travel allowance that person might get. So suddenly, then what sales would do is, sales would typically set up a meeting with Nagoya customer on Thursday, and then say that the customer meeting is at 4 o'clock or then and followed by a dinner. So I will stay there. And then on Friday in the morning, I also again meet something. So they would go to Nagoya, stay there, meet some customer, have some dinner. Next day something, take half day and go to Kyoto or whatever, something. All these expenses now have gone, like because the Nagoya customer is no longer asking to visit. So companies are saving all this, and they're realizing that there are a lot of savings in this, and then these savings can go for innovation again. So that's why there's a lot of hunger now to implement some new products or technologies or try out some new things, which earlier there were less budgets for. So companies are revisiting their entire these things. But in some cases, of course, you have to be there. Like in, I was saying to Siddharth the other day that from last October, I was chasing some customer. And on Zoom meetings, he would just say, it was great to understand your new idea, this thing, that this technology service. Let's talk again when you are here. So I said, like, I'm not going to change any talk there. This is this thing that we are offering. But he would see that I'm just telling him from remotely. And actual business will happen when I'm there in Japan or something. So the moment I landed here, 6th June I came, and for the first 10 days I was in quarantine. And then we had a call. He mentioned that, oh, now, okay, now you are in Japan, oh, great. Last time you explained this service. And so after you quarantine, visit us. And then around 20th June, we got a contract. So I was wondering that same he could have done when I was in India also, actually. And the work is happening from India. But they had to meet me in person, kind of, I think. So some companies are still in that, and they prefer that. And as an SME, that gives them confidence and so on. So it's not a generic. And personally, these days, I also actually like face-to-face meetings because staying here. I'm not used to that remote work still myself. So, yeah.
So these are, I believe, very finer.
But changes are happening. Yeah.
Business cultural aspects.
A lot of changes are happening.
Yeah. Okay. I'll not take much time from other participants. Only one last question from my side. How easy or difficult it is to start a company or register a company in Japan?
Again, actually, it's very easy. So it's like marriage. Marriage is easy. But maintaining the marriage and continuing with it is a very difficult thing. So like that, setting up a company, you come here or you stay in India, whatever, you spend some $10, $100. Setting up is not difficult at all. There are certain steps, procedures. You can contract to any legal or whatever agency, and they will set up for you. Absolutely no problem. It would range anywhere between $3,000 to $5,000 could be roughly considered. But then comes the difficulty. How are you going to get the business, the taxes? Do you need to register a company in Japan for your business? Because there's a lot of taxes here, basically. Like if I had this intelligence 10 years back or 20 years back, I would have registered my company in perhaps Hong Kong or Singapore, and so on, and might have structured it differently, and so on. So depending on what you want to do, setting is easy. Not a problem at all, but then maintaining it and then ensuring that all compliances are there, that's difficult, meaning that you have to follow through. Yeah.
Okay. So Siddharth, anything you want to add on this particular one?
No, I think I'm absolutely in agreement with
this is
Sunil.
Very straightforward.
No doubt.
Yeah.
And fine, I could escape that. I did not set up company here. I set up a liaison office, and for that also I get a red carpet in Yokohama. So that setting up is easy. It's not really issue. I mean, you just follow the steps and it will happen. You don't suddenly face any kind of a surprises like in India. No.
There are some questions in the chat box. Is it okay if I just quickly take some of those questions?
Yeah. We are going there now.
Yes.
So
that's what I now want to do.
Japan government helping startups. So there are a lot of movement here happening, but necessarily the startup has to benefit the Japanese society or Japan in general. So and hence Japan, there are initiatives, there are a lot of schemes. You might want to visit some Japanese government websites. I don't have a particular information about a certain scheme or something, but one can visit JETRO site. There are a lot of local governments coming up with startup hubs, and so, but then your idea or that product or service, whatever, should benefit the Japanese, average Japanese person. Then there is a, yes, with Fidel Tech, of course, as I mentioned, there are job opportunities. Fidel web, you can visit fideltech.com. My email address, you can connect me on LinkedIn, or absolutely no problem. A lot of jobs are there. How companies can rapidly become large company. I am still searching for that answer. How companies, SMEs can grow into large company. What I've learned, so today our Japan and India business put together, we roughly do 10 plus million USD. It took us 20 years. My learning from this is, if actually is, and in perspective, as I said, HCLs and these biggies do roughly around 100 million USD plus minus business. So as an SME, still we are not doing bad on one side. But if we would have put the same energy in the US market, we would have grown to, let's say, $100 million or $50 million for all that matter. So here I think this market, just plain services, it is difficult to differentiate with, as I mentioned, with China, Vietnam, and this thing. If somebody can do more like a specific technology product or something, then there is a faster way to grow. Secondly, I think that in Japan, it is easier to build $1 or $5 million 10 companies than building a $50 million company. Because the more bigger you start getting, you start bumping into the Fujitsus and the Hitachis of the world. And then they will ensure that you are put out somewhere or the other. So when you are under radar, you are doing, say, $3 million, $5 million, $1 million, $500,000. Nobody asks you, nobody questions you, and quickly you can. So building 10 companies of $2 million and having a $20 million revenue might be quick and faster is one I say. Unless you are somebody like Starbucks or Microsoft or Oracle, where you have a size and you have something special and that Japan needs.
I think adding to that, it is better strategy for everyone entering into the Japanese market that they don't totally depend on Japanese market.
Correct.
That's the best strategy. What we adopted here is that we added one or two accounts per year, or 3 at the most. But those accounts are long term. Like some of them are like a 10 year, 15 years, 5 years, and they keep giving you good money. What you do is that you use that money and try to expand in other geography and reduce your risk. You don't want to totally depend on Japan if you really want to exponentially grow, or for that matter, grow. Japan will keep you alive. They will never abandon you. As long as you don't really mess up, they will never cut off relationship. They will keep you alive. So that's a good thing. You can very well bootstrap your company or products with the help of Japan.
Then there is a question of education. So yeah, if you have some software and that can be introduced to the Japan colleges, Japanese industry, that can help. Again, if it's a management related something, if it's a robotics related something like for kids, and with little bit of localization, it could quickly adapt it. But again, selling, these are areas where you need some local partners here. Directly, they might not be that receptive from overseas, because again, of the way the schools and education are structured. Going to international schools or international colleges in Japan might be faster, because then they have at least some global mindset. But I don't know exactly the education package or thing, but there are different tools and or courses or packages that can be LMSs that can be taken to these. As I said, there are jobs. When you say I'm N5 or N4, there are 2-3 some queries like that. I wouldn't want you to call yourself or consider yourself bilingual, as in because then you are going in a wrong. You are trying to presume some things. So basically, as you understand, N5, N4, N3, N2, N1. These are Japanese language some exams. This is just to tell yourself that I know certain this much, and I can do this. There are many Indians or foreigners in Japan who haven't given any Japanese exam, but their employers like them, their friends they work with together and so on. They can express themselves with whatever Japanese language they know. So instead of putting yourself in this bracket of I have done N5 or I have done N2, what can you do with N2? So I have seen, or we have seen customers rejecting an N2 person also because that N2 person was not able to express or articulate oneself. Ability to communicate or articulate yourself. Even if you are doing it in English, there are many. So we had a employee called Hamid from Chennai. He came in 2000 year, and then from 2001 I had started my firm, and I found him. And 2001 to 2015 he was with us, 15 years. Hamid wouldn't talk any Japanese. He first of all, but he was so good in technology, and he would just draw something and explain that because he had that empathy to how to work with somebody who doesn't understand his language. But he was technocrat, so he would explain, show some workflow on this thing. Wherever he went, the companies asked for him, like Sunil san, we would like to work with you if Hamid will be doing this project, and he would do that project. So just knowing a language is one part, but that language should be used. And Japanese people, when they say I want an N2 or N3, they actually want that person to design or do some documentation. So even if you are N5, today if you show that I can do certain design document in Japanese language, great. You should push yourself like, okay, I have N5, forget that. I can do this. But at the same time, if you think that you cannot do that, then you might not want to showcase your N3, N4 or whatever. You might just say that I'm still learning language. I have this much vocabulary and I will continue with language, but I want to pursue it while being in Japan. Is there any other opportunity? So just N5, N3, N4 is difficult because not much can be done. But if you have over and above studied yourself, and a lot of jobs are there. Japanese tend to value small things over big. There are exactly a lot of small things. Actually, so many times what happens is Japanese client is also observing the engineer. So what happens is the engineer many times says that the customer is happy with me. And that gives me a jittery feeling many times, because our guy might be feeling something different, because they observe like whether the person, it's not just you completed the project or you delivered. How was it delivered? Were you on time? Were you coming to the office daily? Or were you leaving on time? Or were you available to, did you help somebody else? There are a lot of factors they will consider. They are observing. And then suddenly, so we have an engineer who said like, the customer is happy and I think they will continue my contract. And the customer said, we want to cancel that contract. And then I was surprised because our engineer was very confident, but they had picked up certain points that he would go early, he would go unannounced. So 6 o'clock, he will just leave without telling the PM that I am leaving for the day. And that for that PM, these small things matter. Of course, there are some clients who this will not matter at all. They will say, okay, you are delivered. So, but there are in Japanese culture they will look at many small things. You are making an attempt. So there is grace point for all these things also, that you attempted something. You didn't know, but you attempted. Of course, you just keep on attempting and don't produce anything, then still there's a problem. But there are these small things. So I think there are opportunities. Web development is, there is opportunity here. These days, PHP, Laravel kind of skill sets are in demand. Again, .NET, PHP, and or Angular kind of. So web development skill sets are in demand. But knowing just that, as I mentioned, that plus Japanese or that plus something more might help. There's a good remark from Paul. Paul is CEO of Randstad, and yeah, he's experienced in Bangalore also. And so thanks, Paul. Really appreciate your comment, and look forward to catch up again. Then yeah, great. I think I have covered most of the questions or points here. There are certain things that I also don't know. I'll be happy to assist something, but yeah.
So in fact, I'd like to read out Paul's comments. Paul said, thanks, Sunil. A great summary of the opportunities and challenges in Japan matches with my own experience over past 20 plus years. I would add that there is an increasing appetite for change and for engaging with foreign companies and importing foreign talent into Japan. And Indian culture is quite popular recently in the main media, and pop culture. The wind is on the side of those from India who aim to business with Japan.
Correct. Absolutely correct. As I mentioned, there are changes happening. Unlike 20 years back, in last 20 years, a lot of Indians have come, settled. They have created friends. They're sending their kids to colleges now here. A lot of movies are being seen here. A lot of Indian restaurants. Vegetarianism is in fashion. A lot of things are happening. So as Paul also mentioned, companies are are eager to look forward towards India. At the same time, I think we need to be realistic, pragmatic, and cautious. So, for example, there is this TITP. There was another TITP program that was announced some years back that Japan will bring 100,000 blue-collared people into Japan from India. Fast forward 3 years now, hardly less than 700 people came in. These are in blue collar, as in carpenters or shop floor assistant or CNC operator. But the market, the news was saying 100,000, and at the same time, 44,000 plus Vietnamese came to Japan in last year, meaning not just pandemic year, before that. Again, under TIDP. So where is this, why this appetite, or why this 44,000 Vietnamese could come in, and why only 700 people came in from India? So these things need to be researched, need to be understood. And as I mentioned, Japan needs 200,000, but they wouldn't want all 200,000 to be from India only. So what all can we bring in at least 200? Can we start with 20? Can we bring in 200? What are the areas? Is there any area where we can capture the market at all? For example, if it is SAP, you just have to go to look into India. That's it, for example. Or if it is particular area, Indians know that, and so on. So there could be some strategy. There could be some group of companies coming together and targeting a specific industry, say fashion. That fashion has these 3 cycles. We cover all this through these products, and we support all this industry. There are a lot of there. Only thing is, as I mentioned, opportunities are there. How we can tackle those realistically. Yeah.
Okay, so I mean, again, you already said that the gap between 700 and 1,000 to research and come to a conclusion. Why is it? But just from your experience, what could be the couple of strong reasons for this? Strong reasons for such a big difference.
There are a lot of things. Meaning, I think we are more than our 1 hour time limit as well. So there are a lot of reasons could go in. There are incentives, government, the way an Indian person sees opportunities in US, in Japan, in Saudi, in Australia, Asia Pac, because a lot of us speak English, or so we have other opportunities as well. So if I am a technocrat, I am 35 years old, and somebody asks me to learn now Japanese language, boat wise, or all these things, cultural, this, that. I might not be inclined to do all that. Whereas I might find an easy way to go to, say, Australia, for all that matter, and so on. So how there are, I mean, are these Indians also, how many Indians are there who actually want to work in Japan, who are willing to invest in learning something, language or culture or something, or go beyond that and learn a particular skill and do that, and so on. So a lot of factors there. And secondly, the more now what is happening is, let's say, if you look at the US, this thing, when US was maturing, looking at India, a lot of Indians who had gone in 70s, they became managers, and then they started inviting their cousins, or they started outsourcing to some friends in Hyderabad, in Bangalore, and so on. And that's the way the industry got created. Today, what happening is, if we look at these many factories and this thing, the supervisor level people are already some Chinese person or Vietnam person. So he and she prefers bringing people from their own country, because then it's so easy for them to work with. And so going into that chain and breaking that and trying to get as a vendor in that, and then getting one Indian enrolled there is again taking time. So because these TITP kind of programs started with China or Vietnam 10 years back. So there's a sizable, the companies in Japan also know how to bring them, what kind of Vietnamese food they eat, or how to handle them, manage them, and so on. But how to manage an Indian? So many times companies will ask me, like, how to manage Indians. Can you tell us? And so on. So a lot of, and then if we can create some collaterals, that Indians are looking towards Japan. Indians have invested in Japan. There are cities and colleges and programs where Japanese is mandatory and people are learning there and they are skilled in certain areas. The way we created, the way Japan has created N4, N2, N3 for understanding that this person knows this much Japanese language, can we create a kind of a program which shows that this person knows this much IT? So for example, everybody, 3-year experience of a Java engineer. What do you mean by that? Meaning how to measure that? And Japanese people cannot interview in English and they understand. So how can we create a program that says that if this person knows this, he should be considered as an average or a decent Japanese Java programmer, which is understandable for them as well. Or what is your college curriculum? So I'm IIT, they know, MIT, they know, Stanford, they will know, Tokyo. But the moment I say I'm working, I passed some Sathe College or Kulkarni College in Solapur. So what was your curriculum? How to measure that? And or my degree is this. So how to measure that? So we need to create some kind of understanding and help them understand. And a lot of opportunities will be there. So it might take time, but as I mentioned, I'm very positive. Changes are happening. Lot more. So we could achieve only this much in last 20 years. Perhaps the new generation, the young engineers will perhaps do that in 5 years or 10 years and so on. So, and our job is now to how we can help more to bring in all these people. Yeah.
Okay. So thank you very much, Sunil. And thank you, Siddharth also. So I think it's already 5T, 1.5 hour. So before we say goodbye to everyone, is there any last questions? Anyone wants to say anything? There are a couple of more things.
All the best and good wishes. If we can be of any help, many times there is no harm or there is no in asking. So just reach out to any of us, and if we know anything, we'll be more than happy to share.
Thank you, Sunil.
Thank you,
Thanks a lot.
Thank you,
really
everyone.
Thank you very much. Thank you, everyone attending. From the on the behalf of IGBC, what I can say here only is that we will try to disseminate as much information as possible from the Japan side and also to the Japan side, because what I feel is that still there is a lot of information deficient, and it's because of that there is a confidence deficient, and that can be only overcome with information deficient, and that is the mission at IGVC. I hope everybody enjoyed today's session. Do reach out to us, and we will definitely get back to you. Sunil is with us, of course, as an advisor, and thanks to time his advice, and thanks for today's session also. Thank you.
Thanks a lot. Bye.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you. Bye. See you next month.
Thank you.